Yes, thank you for having me. Happy to be here at Fashion Week, especially Digital Fashion Week. I think it's a very hot topic and a very timely topic as we're seeing so many brands start to dive into digital fashion or NFTs or blockchain and come to understand the metaverse and Web3 and all this. So I'm so happy to introduce our speakers today. We have Maghan Kaspar, who is a technology investor, a fashion tech entrepreneur. You might know her best as the founding member of Red DAO, which is the world's first digital fashion-focused DAO. And I see we are just now joined by Ariel Cohen, who's a partner and co-founder of A&D Ventures, the head of product at Amdocs Integration Services, and the founder and GM of Live Person Developer Ecosystem. We have Zhang, who is an entrepreneur building software for the global apparel market. He spent time at tech companies and then was later at Tapestry to lead its software organization to prepare the company for digital fashion and Web3. And we are joined by Jordan Edelson, who is the CEO and founder of mobile digital agency Appetizer Mobile and social streaming platform Tradezing. He's also director of mobile fashion app Chic Sketch. So I know that's a lot to take in, but thank you all for joining us and welcome.
Thank you, Maghan.
Great to be here.
Yeah, no, I know we have a lot to get into, and this is a very broad topic. So let's get right into it. I think today we'll have us kind of dive into some terms that I want to understand, some trends, some advice for companies and for startups, and kind of go from there. So Maghan, I'll start with you, put you in the hot seat. You were actually very early to the Bitcoin scene. And as I mentioned, you're the founding member of Red DAO, which is focused all on digital fashion. Could you just help us understand why digital fashion was so enticing to you? Like, how did you start your journey in the digital fashion space?
Well, like you said, investing early in crypto and blockchain, I started to look at different use cases where the technology would be applied and different industries. And I got very excited around 2015, 2016, when I started to conceptualize digital fashion merging with blockchain technology and how blockchain could disrupt the fashion industry in general. So since then, I've been on that journey and really excited to be a part of Red DAO and investing in proliferating the entire ecosystem with Red DAO. So yeah, digital fashion beyond just its sustainability practices, it's, I think, one of the biggest industries that will be disrupted by blockchain.
Totally. Yeah, no, I think it's been really refreshing to see fashion embrace it almost, because people often think of fashion as kind of slow moving, kind of traditional, which is all true. But I think there's a real opportunity here because it's so much tied to identity and it's so visual, all these new technologies. So I hope to kind of dive into that a little bit. I know you've invested in a number of startups. Ariel, you're also an investor. I wonder if you, Ariel, and Maghan could maybe share a little bit about what you're looking for when you go to invest in this space, and or what opportunities do you see? What companies don't exist, but you think there's an opportunity? Ariel, I don't know if you'd like to begin.
Sure, with pleasure. So, first of all, nice to be here. Thank you, Claire, for the opportunity. Really pleasure being here. The area in which we're discussing is very close to our heart. I'm founder and partner in a VC firm in Israel. As you know, Israel is the one of the most extraordinary places for an entrepreneur as well for a VC to live in for many years now. We are seeing from Israel really a boom in this industry across all of its verticals. You know, there's a lot of buzzwords going on right now: Web3, Metaverse, obviously digital fashion. People are still trying to understand what exactly that is and how they can best manifest a technology-based solution that can really transform the industry. Now, we as a early stage VC in Israel, we are less interested in one-off solutions. We're actually looking for a platform. And I'm happy to, I'm happy to say that we are looking very aggressively in this space. We have one portfolio company that is already in that space, transforming Web 2 games into Web 3, and another company in our studio, which is specifically into digital fashion. What is missing is still yet to come. I think we're still exploring the various companies and opportunities that are coming out like mushrooms after the rain in all ranges of verticals. And, you know, it's just a very interesting space to continue and look at. I wish I'd gone into that space as early as Maghan.
I know. She's definitely, I think, the one who we always see her name. She's always involved in all the projects and startups that we end up covering. Dennis, I think it's interesting to talk to you as well, because you had experience at such a more traditional fashion house, Tapestry, which is the parent company of a number of brands. So I'd love for you to kind of share with us, what opportunities do you see, particularly for traditional fashion brands? I think one area that we've kind of covered early on is this idea of value chain digitization, which is essentially integrating digital practices and digital materials and products throughout the supply chain to kind of sort of inform what is made by demand, which I know is a lot to take in. But so can you help us kind of contextualize that and kind of share what your thoughts are there?
Sure. By digitalizing the value chain, there are multiple opportunities in the Web3 area. For example, we can make the supply chain more efficient with plenty of automation opportunities. And also, we can address overproduction, which has been with the fashion industry for a long time. And also, the Web3 technology could be used for the traceability of all the raw materials along the value chain. And it could help the fashion value chain to be more quantified in terms of when the traditional fashion brands are making business decisions, all the sustainable metrics could be quantified and be taken into consideration. Thanks.
Absolutely. And Tracey, I realize I'm just looking up. I'm like, I don't think I read your bio out. I'm so sorry. So we have Tracey Mancenido from Tommy Hilfiger, who's actually worked in a lot of the areas that Dennis actually just talked about. So Tommy Hilfiger under PVH has been a clear leader in 3D design processes. I think as early as 2019, you all announced you're switching entirely to digital design. As Dennis just mentioned, in the design process, that means even before consumers interact with it, you all are designing digitally. So since then, Tracey, I'd love to hear about maybe if you can share some of the other projects that you've worked on more recently in this space.
Sure, happy to, and no worries. Thank you all for having me here. Really excited to talk about 3D fashion. And I think that is one of the reasons why we are all here, because we understand the value of what our digital identities will be and how fashion can play a major role in that space. So I come from a creative background. I was a designer for over 10 years, working for Fortune 500 brands, and made the switch solely to digital at the height of the pandemic. And one of the more recent projects that we worked on, in addition to supporting the digital transformation that is ever ongoing at Tommy, and will continue to evolve based off of some of the points that Dennis mentioned, that is really exciting. We partnered with Ready Player Me to really tap into virtual identity and how fashion can play a role in that, and understanding what the community is looking for. Interoperability is also top of mind here. How can we transport the assets that we are beginning to consume, and sort of parallel to that to how we consume products in real life, and can we have that ability, that portability to take it wherever we go. So that was an exciting project that my team and I recently wrapped up, and we look forward to what we can do next with it.
Yeah, I think if I remember correctly, you call it parallel Tommy Hilfiger. Is that kind of, so
Yes.
what does that even mean? Like, what is the consumer journey like? Ready Player Me, as I understand it, is sort of an avatar creation company, and they integrate actually with, I think, like 200 give or take apps and sites. So it's not necessarily siloed into one platform, to your point of interoperability. So you create your Ready Player Me, and then and what is Tommy doing there?
So really, the reason why it was called Parallel is we wanted to tap into the phygital experience. So not only are you able to redeem a virtual Tommy outfit, you have the opportunity to buy the same exact physical item and match your virtual item wherever you go. And one of the reasons why we chose Ready Player Me is exactly what you mentioned. They have interoperability with thousands of platforms. And so really, it's the choice of where you'd like to show up, and knowing that you can show up in more than one place and aren't limited to one experience, one moment in time, and can really bring yourself wherever you choose to.
I noticed you use the word fidgetal. I feel like that's a, if you like, raise your hand if y'all like that word, because I don't mind it, but I feel like everyone has like, someone's like, oh, it gives me hives on Twitter, like, oh, I'm so allergic to this word, and I'm like, but it makes so much sense. So I'm glad you said that word, not me.
Yeah.
So I'd love to hear one thing, maybe from you, Jordan. I think it'd be nice to hear from you on this. We're talking about these digital design processes, and I think what's interesting is trend we're seeing is like the idea of personalization. So I don't know if you can speak to that, the idea of personalizing digital goods as they're being made, and anything else, you know, aside from that, any trends that you're seeing that you think brands and retailers should stay on top of, or, you know, how are they doing on that? Like, I don't know, anything related to that I think would be so interesting to hear.
Yeah, so I come from an interesting background, as you alluded. There's a couple different titles there.
Yes.
I'm a product guy. I built over the last 13 years over 400 mobile apps under my digital agency. I actually courted my girlfriend at the time by actually building her a digital fashion application, which actually was a fashion room where you can actually customize the fashion in there. It was very cool. Nice. But no, I think it all kind of comes back to education. I think we're at a point now where there's so many new technologies that are moving really, really quickly that you need to be educated. Most people right now are turning to either peers, they're turning to different social networks, they're going to YouTube, they're going to Twitch, they're going to Twitter, and that's where they're trying to learn. So it all comes back to education. And my most recent venture, Tradezing, which is a Web3 platform where you're able to come on as a creator. We actually call them finfluencers, so financial influencers on our platform, and they come on and help educate users across cryptocurrencies, across stocks, metaverse, and NFTs. So we kind of see, you know, what it's going to prevail is ultimately kind of this form of edutainment. So education and entertainment, where again, people can learn about all these different opportunities. And that applies to brands as well. Being able to understand kind of changes to norms and how people are shopping and how people are conversating about all these different new trends just in general. In terms of ownership in Metaverse, I agree. Metaverse still is kind of a weird term. It's kind of loosely defined. You can claim we've had Metaverse for the last couple of years as like video games. The Metaverse, quote unquote, from now, you know, in the future might be something completely different. So I think we're kind of in this evolving ecosystem. That's why I still kind of go back to education is really important to understand what are those opportunities and what do consumers truly want.
Do you think, I think this idea of education is really interesting. Do you think that people, is that a challenge? And I'm happy to hear from anyone on this one. Do you think that do you think consumers understand these terms and they're interested in participating? Or do you think maybe the tech companies are the ones pushing these technologies and the consumers are curious or skeptical? Like, what is your overall take on the sentiment here? And I know you mentioned a number of these social platforms. Do you think that's the best way to continue educating?
Yeah, I'll continue the thought on that. Yeah. I think it's still very early. I think a lot of, you know, we're kind of in the early days of the ecosystem, like when the internet was first kind of born. You know, what it was intended to do at that point is completely different than what it is doing right now and how it's supporting, you know, live streaming video. Before it was just built for, you know, sending emails and just communication. So it's kind of an evolving ecosystem. Still, also, we're seeing a lot of technologies just trying to validate themselves. So we're gonna have a lot of winners and losers and ultimately a lot of consolidation within a lot of these different technologies and blockchains. So I think we're still kind of in an evolving kind of almost wild west, and then you throw in regulatory, you know, components to that too. So, you know, it's going to be a little bit of a bumpy road, but I think ultimately we'll be, you know, once we get on the other end of it, we're going to be in a much better position. But that's why I think, again, people and consumers just have to be educated about why should I care about NFTs? What does an NFT stand for? You know, what is it going to do to me to make the process easier? If it's going to make it a lot harder, we have to connect a wallet and then you have to, you know, go ahead and swap out coins. And again, it's not going to get that same user adoption. So a lot of these, you know, technologies need to make the process and the general user experience a lot easier if it's truly going to take off. Yeah,
Maghan, any thoughts on that? I know you've done a lot about you know, of outreach, I guess, basically on your social platforms and more. And I think when the Red DAO acquired the Dolce & Gabbana crown, it was for like 423.5 ETH, I think. And I think that actually got a lot of attention and helped in education. So I don't know, what are your thoughts on this education component? And maybe you can talk about why the Dolce crown was part of that.
Yeah, I believe something a little bit differently than Jordan. I don't think that the consumers that'll use the blockchain technology and NFTs will actually know and understand all of the underlying components. I think if you look at Instagram, for example, they already have a digital collectible section. I think about 95% of people now that have an Instagram account can link their digital collectibles or NFTs to their account and show them. I suspect that Instagram, along with Snapchat and TikTok, will have a large product rollout over the next 2 years, where Web2 consumers will be using Web3 technology in a way that will be very easy. The UI and UX will be streamless, convenient. They don't need to go through all of the hoops of education and learning why they need to use an NFT. It is important. I'm not discrediting that at all. I think it is important. I just think consumers are lazy, and I think that it's hard to educate them. So I think providing a very easy, streamless experience is going to be sort of the winning ticket, and every platform that does that will do really well. So another reason why, Red Dowell started so early with digital fashion is we are early to the space, and the use cases for digital fashion still are outside of it being a speculatory asset. We hold the crown along with 2 other of the Dolce & Gabbana items that were dropped out of the couture NFT drop. And those were purchased as really historical moments in time for us to memorialize the first high-end designer doing a couture NFT drop. And then also as a speculative asset, we suspect and believe that those assets will go up in value, and we're holding them with no intention of selling them, and obviously have ways that we can create and use them on other platforms, which is exciting, outside of just having the physical.
That's interesting. I look forward to
I'd love
hearing
to
that.
comment.
Yeah, please do.
I think both Jordan and Maghan are right, but they're simply looking at the same event, so to speak, from 2 sides of the same road. On one hand, looking at what Jordan said, people need to be educated, need to understand the technological barriers and the potential, so that new thriving solutions will be able to emerge. And we see that. Myself as a VC in Israel, people are investing an immense amount of time to understand the capabilities from the sustainability part of which coin to use, or which technology to use, and all the way to what are the level of the adaptability. Because from Jordan's perspective, all of these aspiring entrepreneurs building new solutions, they need the depth and breadth. On the other side, from the consumer side, like Maghan said, and I agree as well, people are looking for value. And a great example for it is see what the economic minister of El Salvador and this president, which was the first country in the world to formalize the use of Bitcoin, did. So it's not a bill, they will come. At the end of the day, you need to give people you need to give the users the applicability of that technology. So in El Salvador, for example, they give incentive to the general population, the general user, to use that technology by showing them a use case, for example, of cross-border money transaction. So I think the future is yet to be seen from that perspective. We know what we know today, but I think that there will be immense opportunity and value for both developers and startups and entrepreneurs, and obviously its consumers.
Yeah, a lot of big changes happening that I think that are, a lot of times people compare Web 2 to Web 3 to Web 2, but I feel like with the advent of social media and blogs, it was a big change, but not quite on the level that we're seeing with Web 3, because we're talking about change in ownership, self-custody, just so many different things that dramatically impacts the bottom line. And I see, Tracey, you're nodding your head. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this idea of ownership and possession. And because, fashion is typically like a tops down, like this is cool, then you should like this and you should buy it. But now it's almost like a shared ownership, or almost like a community driven ownership concept. Are brands keeping up with this? What is your take on this? I feel like it's going to be a little bumpy.
I think brands are keeping up with this, and I want to go back to education, because I do think it is important, and I agree with both Jordan, Maghan, and even what Ariel is saying. But at what level does the education need to happen? So for me, I think it does need to happen from a leadership perspective. So brands can understand the technology and support the technology and evolving it so that when consumers are onboarded, it is that like seamless journey to get them in, and really unlocking the potential of all this technology as well. As you know, we're talking about digital assets. I'm beginning to consume more digital assets than I am physical assets within the past 2 years. And there's a number of reasons why that is, but, and I also use a PFP as an identifier on some of the social media platforms, because it's a way for me to signal what I'm interested in, how I identify, and what I believe in and the projects that I believe in. So I think there's so much opportunity for brands. And I think from a community perspective, you also have to look at it as forming new consumers, what loyalty looks like, what a new form of CRM looks like using blockchain technology. And yeah, I don't know. I'm just really excited at what the possibilities are and how brands are beginning to tap into it.
Yeah. Dennis, what are your thoughts on the technology needs that brands might still need? Because I know you worked setting up software at Tapestry. What technologies are brands still trying to learn right now or on board? And are you seeing them partnering with tech startups, or do you think they're kind of more inclined to do things in-house at this stage?
I do agree with all the folks who mentioned just mentioned about the education part.
Yeah.
So I'm echoing a little bit with Tracey that the leadership team of traditional fashion brands, they should get more like awareness about the Web3 and all the potential metaverse that could bring to the fashion industry. Yeah, and just from a traditional brand point of view, I would say if the product development are part of the fashion industry, by saying that, I mean, if the fashion design could go fully digital, so that will build the digital asset library from the beginning, that will unlock more potential in the Web3/Metaverse, all the platforms. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Tracey, has that paid off for you all? You've been at this for a couple of years now. What's your take?
Yeah, sorry, I couldn't smile any larger, Dennis. Thank you so much for and one of the reasons that got me so interested in the space was because we started so early and we're set up in a really great way with PVH's support. Is now we have this massive library of digital assets, and what are we going to do with it? So really flipping it and thinking about, not only is it supporting making better product, making faster decisions, being more efficient, making less waste, it also opens up an opportunity for digital IP. We have a library of digital IP. How can we then utilize that and look at new revenues, look at new ventures, and really look at different ways of engaging with our brand and storytelling with assets versus with physical product.
Yeah, that's super cool. I'm actually looking forward to the Tommy Show Sunday night. You all have done a number of different Metaverse Web3 projects, and I know there's going to be more coming up on Sunday. So we look forward to covering that and having some more interviews down the line about what you all are working on. So thank you so much for sharing. It's very impressive how quickly you guys came out with this, like vocally, you know, instead of quietly just trickling it out. You just were like going big. I'm going to do all digital. I think that was like super neat. So one thing I want to put you on the hot seat again, Maghan, because I think you are really good at explaining complex topics. So on the education standpoint, could you help educate me? How would you I want you to kind of define two things that you've known to talk about. One is the idea of on-chain identity. You know, say you're at a dinner table and someone's like, what does this mean? How do you describe that from a fashion standpoint? What does that mean, on-chain identity?
Yeah, so to us, it's based on the premise that each internet user will have a unique internet identifier, like an email address. So that can be natively linked to any piece of software stored on the blockchain. And that's a part of somebody's basically decentralized identity and a portion of a person's online activity, which could then be on-chain. So that means that information could be easily searched via their individual crypto wallet. Or wallet address. With that decentralized identity, which is basically a readable history that's unique to each person. One crypto wallet would function as sort of their profile. So similar to your profile on Twitter or LinkedIn. However, unlike those Web2 platforms, decentralized identities are backed by hard evidence, being, permanent a timestamp of a record of a person's accomplishments, contributions, interests, and activities. So all of which can be monetized. And then that leads us into sort of the Web3 to earn economy that's starting to proliferate. We can get into the where to earn as well, and what that means. But yeah, unlike Web2, that's where the Web3 identities, it means on-chain identity, very much differs from the Web2 identities that we all have today that are siloed on these different centralized platforms.
Totally. So that would mean like instead of logging in with like your Gmail address or your Facebook profile, it would be literally connecting your wallet. And so that would be the way that your identity would be identified.
Yeah, and then all of your assets, like say I logged into the platform today and I decided I wanted to bring in a necklace, this asset then would be with me. And then the to earn economy, this asset being an NFT would be tied to my digital identity. And then it could then give the post-sale analytics of me purchasing the asset directly to the brand. And the brand could know I, Maghan Kaspar, am wearing this in front of all of you with however many viewers are watching this. So all of those data points and then viewership later on. And then in turn, they could compensate me if their platform so chooses to do that, for providing that data.
Okay, so thank you for saying to earn. That was my second thing I wanted to ask you, but I think you kind of just explained it. So just so we're all clear, you're wearing a digital necklace, right?
Yeah.
That's super neat.
It's actually a digital necklace that's also physical. I don't have the physical with me because I'm traveling, but it is also a physical necklace as well.
So the to earn concept that you mentioned could mean like, I'm a brand and I reward you. I can see you're wearing this necklace in this amazing Zoom or this Metaverse call. And then we reward you, for your loyalty, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And then the physical, if it has an NFC, a lot of companies are now tying NFC chips into the physical product. And the NFC chip, say I'm wearing the physical near my phone, or whatever device, then it can then tell the device that I'm wearing it, where I'm wearing it, how I'm wearing it, who I'm wearing it with. Say I'm wearing it at an event that I can't have augmented reality fashion. Well, that gives the physical reality object the ability to give all of that data as well and attribute it to my on-chain identity.
Yeah, super neat. I think the idea of on-chain clothing and like having a tag, an NFC or some other kind of chip to identify that it's connected to an NFT is super interesting. And we're already seeing brands start to do that. So much more to talk about. I think we have about 10 more minutes. So I want to make sure we cover everything. Jordan, I don't know if you can speak to this, but I thought it'd be interesting to ask what kind of metrics of success should brands be looking at? Because I think sometimes just experimenting in general is a success. And even if it's a quote unquote failed project, you actually learn a lot because you're like, okay, our community doesn't like this. So when you're brands or even thinking of ideas and projects, how do you measure success? What is a sign of success?
Yeah, I think it comes back, well, if it's augmented reality, it comes back to engagement. I think just seeing that users are leveraging, using the technology, in Maghan's case, wearing the necklaces, seeing how they're doing it, and also taking the temperature to see if they're telling others about it. So it's trying to get that viral factor. And if it starts to pick up that viral factor, I think, you might be able to judge that more in the realm of a success. But I think you have to be very careful with how you set your KPI metrics because it is an evolving ecosystem and you have to be, very upfront about defining what is success. But yeah, I mean, and again, especially can very much be seen as an experiment. So, probably testing with smaller groups or pools of users is probably a good way to start before deploying a massive campaign and expecting everyone just to adapt to it. So again, brands just have to be very strategic about, their approach of how they deploy these new technologies.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's been a big shift as well in the past 10 or even 15 years. I remember there would be big bangs, like fashion brands would come out and like, okay, everyone's getting an iPad or whatever. And like, there's these huge launches that were so splashy and then people criticize them. And so now it's kind of become more iterative from what I'm seeing. Tracey, would you concur? What are you seeing? What are people responding to in your community that you think is promising or maybe a learning on something that kind of pivoted from?
I mean, I think Jordan is absolutely right. You start by testing and learning and really understanding the space and seeing what the engagement is like. And then from there, it's really partnering with experts in the field and or technology partners, and then trying to build a team, I think, to focus. I mean, really build out what that roadmap looks like based on what the ROIs are that you as a brand are identifying as what is our measure of success outside of marketing and or entering the space with a couple of activations.
It's interesting you say outside marketing, because I feel like even that is a great thing, you know, like just because it doesn't make a ton of money right away, marketing actually could be super valuable, right? Like when you're trying something new.
Absolutely.
Dennis, I want to ask you, we mentioned Tommy Hilfiger at Fashion Week. Obviously, so many brands are showing this week. I'm in New York right now. And I know Maghan mentioned AR, and we're starting to see more AR because so much of the conversation on Metaverse and Web3 has been on the virtual world, on immersive experiences that are completely virtual. But I think augmented reality is actually quite sophisticated. There's a lot of opportunity there. What do you see for the physical world, whether it's stores, events, virtual try-on? What opportunities do you see in the physical world for fashion?
I think, as you mentioned, the customer journey for the fashion industry has become more like from two-dimensional to three-dimensional, and also from more physical towards more digital. So a lot of collaborations, such as Tracey mentioned, will like connect all the fashion showrooms and events to all the virtual platforms. So that's more like the direction for the future.
Yes, totally. Back to that phygital concept that everyone loves to hate, basically. So I think I'd love to talk, a little bit about the challenges or like what we still need to achieve. I know we've touched on this some, and then sort of like the wins or like the encouraging moments. And I think it'd be great to hear from each of you kind of as we wrap, unless there's anything else we didn't cover about the work you're doing that you'd like to share. But I'd love to hear kind of like a recent win or success or encouraging thing, and then maybe a challenge. So Ariel, I don't know about you, just to put you on the hot seat, on the fly, what are your thoughts?
I have to say that, from a VC perspective, we're just at the tip of the iceberg. I can say, again, we're an early stage VC in Israel, very young. One of our portfolio company is a Web3 company that has taken immense amount of interest, really giving the platform for publishers today to really revolutionize the way we know how to play via mobile. Again, taking advantage of blockchain and crypto. And I see the amount of awe that has been discussed with these huge publishers, game publishers, that now through this technology give them an immense amount of value, monetary value. And on the other hand, just like the discussion earlier between Maghan and Jordan, gives the end user an immense amount of value. In just 2 cents, crypto, one can purchase in-app games within mobile application and then take out the portion that he doesn't want to use and put it in another game, which is my son's personal fantasy, because then he doesn't have to have new money for new game when there's a new trend coming up. So bottom line, sorry for taking a lot of time, we're just seeing.
Absolutely. Jordan, what are your thoughts on maybe the highs, lows, and awkwards of where we are right now?
Well, I think we are at a really interesting point. I think it's at the infancy. I'm interested and really excited about the democratization of access to these new types of technologies. I think, again, as more people are educated about them, they'll be able to use them to empower themselves. Specifically, even in the fashion world, you're going to have a lot of younger fashion designers that might not have the opportunity to be funded or be seen, that now can go ahead and create a design in 3D, have it seen, have it being used, and then monetize it on the blockchain and really have complete ownership over it. So this has never happened before. This is brand new, and this is going to be a kind of a paradigm shift, I feel like, moving forward over the next couple of years. It's going to get really exciting, I think, because there'll be a lot of new ideas. And I think end of the day, the end user, the consumer, is going to be the winner.
Absolutely. Dennis, what about you?
I would say, because I came from a technology background. I used to work for big software companies. So I think everything is possible. So given all the digital IPs in the fashion world we have today, and what all the creators will be building tomorrow. So there will be like new technologies in the AR/VR area, and also in the digital virtual fashion area as well. Because if you look at today, the self-expression for digital and virtual fashion products are very limited. So we are looking at a very futuristic product that all the people around you can see you are wearing a digital/virtual fashion product. I think that's not achievable for today, but just from a technology perspective, it's achievable in the future.
Yeah, no, I think it's so interesting, the AR level to add more creativity to the runways or to stores. Actually, Vogue World, on Monday, we are adding some AR elements to the runway itself, and then some digital try-on for anyone watching globally at home. They can try on the selfies, the filters, try on some of the clothes. So I think it's really cool to see how this is progressing. Tracey, what about you? What are you encouraged by, and what do you think we're still waiting on? I know everyone's saying it's early days, so noted.
Some of the wins I'd say is we were set up successfully for 3D fashion design and adoption. And because of that, we're already seeing tremendous ROIs within the business itself. Now, what the challenge is how interoperable these assets are. They are huge files. So how do we get our high poly into low poly environments? And also with that compromise of going from high to low, what opportunities are there, or what technologies are out there that will allow us to maintain that high quality? So it is as photoreal as possible.
Yes, very interesting. And I think I'm glad you mentioned that, because so often people see some of the aesthetics in some of these worlds and they wonder why the aesthetic is compromised compared to some of the photorealistic digital fashion they might see on your website, for example. And I think that's a great point, that it's just the tech's not there yet. So Maghan, let's end it with you. What are you encouraged by? What's exciting to you, and what are you waiting to still happen, or maybe what are the challenges you're still facing?
Super excited that the industry has seen this year the integration of NFC chips through Artifacts hoodie with the augmented reality features and functions that come along with that. And then also 90cc G Money's t-shirt collection. So these were super exciting. And I think that by the end of the year, we'll see Where to Earn roll out, which will also be really cool. But like Dennis said, and Tracey, there are limited use cases for digital fashion today, mostly because of the, even when I have this necklace on, you can see there's the limitations of the technology. It's not perfect. So for mass consumers to use it today, probably not likely, but that is coming. And I think, to be able to have quality and integrity, interoperability amongst platforms, whether it's photorealistic or more fantastical, that technology and those tech stacks are being built out. So
yes, absolutely. Well, I'm so glad you mentioned that, the idea of fantastical versus photorealistic. I think that just illustrates the breadth of options that are available to fashion and creative people. So I know we could just talk so much longer. There's everything we talked about. We could write like a chapter in a book about, I'm sure. But it's been great meeting you all, having you here. Thanks for joining. I look forward to seeing your work in the future.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And Claire, over to you. Oh, I think you're on mute.
Thank you. Yes. So thank you. Yeah, this was an absolutely incredible conversation. Maghan, I love your Aurelia and Icarus necklace. This is just such an important topic. It's really a privilege to have all of you here talking about it, expressing your opinions and sharing your knowledge and expertise. Maghan, thank you. Beautifully curated conversation. I think it's so important for designers, for brands, for retailers alike. And I love that we're talking about the future where the physical clothes will be digital in our physical world as well. And we've really only just seen the start of of where we're going. So it's a very, very exciting industry to be a part of, and a great privilege to have you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Okay, bye.
Thank you very much, Claire. Bye.
Bye.